Good evening and welcome to West Dock. Today is Tuesday, September the 26th, and we've got a great episode for you, of course, as always. And as you look around now, the beautiful Humber Valley, we can see that fall is definitely coming. The leaves are starting to change colors. Soon the pumpkin patches in Pasadena and all that will be opened up, and we'll all be feeling nice and folly and drinking our pumpkin spices and all that stuff. So anyway, I don't know why I thought of that, but driving in this morning, I just thought it was so beautiful, especially in the Humber Valley, and reminded me how lucky we are to get to live in this place and have this special little 20-minute commute a couple times a day of double lane, divided highway, rivers, mountains, Marble Mountain, it's all there. And yeah, super nice. What a great place we live in. Now, like always, we've got a book, and this is a book that I'm taking home with me at the end of the day and reading because I didn't hear about this before now, but it sounds super awesome. The book is called We'd Rather Fight Than Eat, and it's a novel by Jay McGrath. So listen to this storyline. Society has fallen, and now the struggle for survival has begun. This action-packed adventure brings childhood friends back to their isolated hometown, a rural community on an island in the Atlantic Ocean where they find refuge. Amongst the ashes of the apocalypse, the people of Beckford must band together if they hope to stay alive. Meanwhile, a new empire has emerged from the smoldering wreckage of St. John's, once the capital city of Newfoundland. Its leader, an enigmatic figure whose rise to power was paved with violence, has established a new world order. She plans to rebuild humanity according to her vision, but the town of Beckford stands in her way. As the will to protect Beckford from the people of St. John's intensifies, it will take everything Jack, Megan, Sarah, and Brook can give to ensure their survival. Ooh. Yeah, well, first when I read that description, I just had this image of like dark Danny Williams, you know, in a post-apocalyptic world running the whole planet from St. John's, which is possible to happen. So it sounds like a really cool story. And again, like we said last week, no matter what type of book you're into, what type of literature you enjoy, I find reading that style, but with a little Newfoundland twist, makes it so much more enjoyable and relatable. All right. Now time for our in-studio guests. And first, we're going to talk about something exciting, something you might hear happening every now and then around the city. You might see happening from the Civic Center to the back lots of car dealerships. Auto racing has come back to Western Newfoundland, thanks to a group of young people who are putting in some time to make sure racing can happen in an organized, safe, and fun way right here in Western Newfoundland. So to talk about that, I've invited in Mr. Cameron Comden, who is the main man behind all these cars zooming around the city, not around the city, in the controlled parking lots. We need to clarify that off the bat. And I guess the founder of Western Speed Park, is that an accurate title?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
It's kind of a group effort.
Yeah.
Right? It's a group effort, definitely.
So what is Western Speed Park?
So Western Speed Park, we host autocross mainly, but automotive themed events.
Mm-hmm. What's autocross?
So
for
autocross,
people at home.
Yes, for people at home. People at home. Autocross is a timed course, right? Cones. It's solo, so single car, single person at each time. You know, each person gets timed, and whoever got the fastest time at the end of the day around that cone course wins for the day. And it's it can be competitive if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be, right? Yeah. Some people go out there and get the slowest time, have the most fun.
Yeah,
it's
like you.
Like me, exactly. Right? So it's all about what you want to take out of it, right? So autocross is our main focus right now at this point.
So so it's auto racing, except it's not like, you know, multiple cars racing at one time. It's different people challenging the course to see what the best time they can get.
Yeah, like, you know, we like using the word racing because it's a fun word, right? But
they're racing around the track.
Yeah, exactly. It's auto slalom is kind of the proper term because it takes away, because when you picture racing, it's like, how are they racing cars in the back of Honda's parking lot?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But you're racing against the clock, right? So it's a little bit different, right?
Yeah. And what I find so fun about the autocross, and by the way, a lot of times, like when you do this, it's basically always open for people to come down and watch, right? Sometimes you do it as events where you'll charge a small fee and try to build it out a little bit. But this is so fun to watch because it's just all types of vehicles.
Yeah.
And it's shocking. Like if you go there before and you see all the cars, like who knows what you could see there, right? There's some really nice vehicles. There's some exotic stuff there, right? And then there's also basically stock, like fuel efficient, like family vehicles.
Everything.
Yeah, and the times really surprising, and that's what makes it to me so exciting.
Exactly.
And for the people at home, like you're such a perfect example of that, because you have two main cars that you drive in there: a 1999 or 7 Tercel, Toyota Tercel, which is like the size of this couch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then a total like race car, right-hand drive, imported Nissan drift car from Japan.
Yeah.
Right, and you cannot touch the time on your Tercel with your like race car.
Right.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
So to me, that also, to me, I think that's really brilliant that you do that, and it's a really good. I think it's a really good marketing piece for the speed park. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily about what you drive. It's about how you drive and all that.
Exactly.
So it seems approachable. Like if somebody is just watching this now and they don't have a race car, they've got like, whatever, a stock Honda Civic.
Exactly.
What do you say to that person, and what do they actually need to do to be able to get in on this?
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing with autocross. The cost of entry is so low. There's no, if you want to go race, quarter mile drag strips, if you want to go, do all these types of things, you got to build these cars specifically for it. It's thousands and thousands of dollars just to get into it. So if you decide that this is what I want to do, your cost of entry is already super high.
Yeah.
With autocross, whatever you drive, unless it's, obviously it has to fit within a certain, height restriction, and there's certain cars that just aren't allowed because of the rollover risk and things like that.
Like pickup trucks and
Pickups,
big SUVs.
SUVs, general rule of thumb is that it needs to be wider than it is tall, because naturally, you kind of, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, most young guys with a Honda Civic or a Corolla or whatever, like, show up, it's the worst you're going to do is wear your tires a little faster than normal.
Yeah.
And
maybe smack out a cone or something like that, which really doesn't, I guess, does that cause much damage on your car?
Much. We've had some pretty, extensive cone things happen, but it's just comical because it's just a cone, right?
Yeah.
Scuffs on the bumper and things like that. But you don't need to go out and do 120%. You can go out and do 50%, go out and do 75, and work your way up to that 120% if you want to, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about what you want to do.
And so I've seen from being around that usually when the drivers show up, there's a small like dues or something, I guess, that you collect, or that gets collected for everybody who's going to race, which seems like a couple bucks or whatever.
Yeah, we do it like, we're set up as a nonprofit organization, of course, because it's really just to build a community around it. And the cost of entry is quite literally just to cover off insurance, because obviously these are insured events and things like that. And there's a little cushion there just in case we did have anything to invest in, like the timing gear, equipment. We were 2 years building up to get that, and now it kind of worked out good, because now we've got enough people that consistently take part that the level of competitiveness is actually, there's a little bit there, right? So the guys who, sometimes you're down to milliseconds in the difference of the time, and if you got a guy doing a stopwatch, we're all a good group of guys, but it could be like, hey man, like he could have hit that slightly before or whatever. Like stopwatch isn't exactly the best way to do it. So that timing gear is like, there's no argument.
It's exactly. There's no, it doesn't play favorites.
Right.
It's just a laser.
It's just a laser, right? Yeah. It plays favorites sometimes when it blows over or whatever, but it's all about learning, and we're all learning together, like everybody that takes part is also part of the experience of making it happen. So everybody helps pick the cones up. Everybody helps show up the night before and set, everybody's welcome to do all these things, to set things up and make things operate. So it's a group effort. There's no like, oh, you can't do this. It's like everybody does it together. So
and they get that. And but still, it seems pretty clear down there on race days that people are kind of following your lead and looking to you. And why do you think that is? How have you? I know you were always just part of the car community, you and lots of your other friends, right? But was it just one of those things where people? Did you just get appointed and they're like, you need to go do that? You're the guy. You need to be the ambassador of this, or was it just you just stepping up and saying, I want this to become a bigger thing for me and my friends, so I'm just going to do it?
Yeah, it's like I said in the beginning, it's a group effort. Like there's multiple people that have been involved, and before my time of being involved, right? There's so much work that goes into even getting this thing off the ground. I kind of stepped in at a point where, all the paperwork, I'll say, or the behind the scenes stuff is kind of, there. But for me, it's become so important to me to do this, and I enjoy it so much, and I know that there's other people that enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
And I think the way I look at it is that there's lots of people that could step up and do, what I do with it. There's tons, but it's you need that person that's always there, that's dedicated to it and is passionate about it, because people connect with that. So I do make an effort to try to be as involved as possible. So I think it's just evolved to a point where that's what it's at, So.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for things to fall apart, just a few weeks of inconsistency sometimes, or somebody not really keeping things going, and then that's it. It's just fizzled away.
It fizzles away, and it's, it is possible, and it's, and where it's nonprofit, it's, we all have our day jobs. We all have, there's people that are involved, they've got families and things like that. Like, there's other commitments, there's so many other things. So that's why we try to get as many people involved as possible, because we don't want the organization to fall because the 3 guys that ran it can't do it anymore.
Or got a job somewhere else, or
whatever, right? We can just kind of pass the torch along and say, hey, take it, it's already built, just take it and run with it. So it's very much being set up that way.
I like that. I think it's smart. I just got the notice from our producer, which means we're at the last part of our interview here. So I just want to give you a chance to call out to the community, whether it's people who maybe are interested in driving, or maybe people who are listening to this and think they can offer something or want to partner. What message would you want to shout out to Western Newfoundland here now?
Yeah, so we've had incredible support from, especially Fairway Honda, for letting us use their property. Everybody that works there has been super supportive in making it happen. Sponsors as well too. So many great sponsors. Napa, Western Group of Companies as well too has donated, lots of prizes and things like that. Like
Rent Rescue.
Rent Rescue. I don't want to miss anybody, of course, because there's so many.
There's a lot.
I could go on and on and on. So there's so many people that dedicate their time and whatnot. But anybody wants to get involved, it's super easy. It's $30 to come drive around the course and figure out what your car can do. And it's a good community, it's good camaraderie amongst everybody. So it's definitely something to look out for.
And they can just simply go online, go on Facebook, and type in Western Speed Park and look for you. And if they ever see cars zooming around the back of Fairway Honda or at the Pepsi Center, just go on in and say, where's Cameron?
Yep, that's it.
And if he's not in a Tercel somewhere about to lose his steering wheel, he might be able to come talk to you.
Yeah, we'll make the time for it.
Wicked. Well, thanks a lot for coming down here today.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll definitely get you back next time there's an event, like a ticketed Speed Park event that we need to get people out to. We'll get you back in to talk all about that, man.
No problem. Sounds good.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our next guest. Stay tuned. All right, we're back in studio now with another guest, no stranger to our show, someone we've spoke to, over the years about different things happening in our community, and back now to talk about an event happening this week and a few other things happening in our community is Western Regional Vice Chief of the Hollyboo First Nation Band, Jenny Brook. Jenny, thanks for coming down today.
Thanks, Dustin. It's always good to be here.
Yeah, it's like we've got to get you in at least once every season. You're such an important person in our community here lately. And,
Thank you.
You can speak to things going on that relate to such a big percentage of our community here in Western Newfoundland.
Absolutely.
That is so important to get you down. And I know right off the top, there's a gathering happening on Friday that you'd love to be able to sort of tell our viewers in Western Newfoundland about and kind of extend a little invite to.
Yeah, absolutely. So on September 30th, we honor the day for Truth and Reconciliation. And on Friday, the band will be hosting a walk in community and just a gathering in Majestic Lawn near the Miigwech Garden. And, I encourage folks to come out and pay their respects, and they can do the walk with Chief Mitchell and the other members of staff. I'll hopefully be around that day. I know it's a busy day. Every year around this week, it seems like all of our council members and active community champions are they're spread thin. So, you get a lot of phone calls from schools, which I feel are, that's one of the most important places we need to be, because education's key, that, these things don't happen again. History doesn't repeat itself. So Friday morning in particular, I'll be at C.C. Laughlin School. That's my two daughters, two of my three children. They'll be at the school, and they learn the honor song. So this really incredible group from New Brunswick, I believe, Workforce Warriors, they funded a program last year that allowed the Corner Brook Aboriginal Women's Association to go around to the schools and teach the children the honor songs, and they were able to make drums and really understand the meaning behind the Mi'kmaq Honor Song, which was written by George Paul, Elder George Paul.
Can you speak a little bit more about that song, just for our viewers at home?
Yeah, absolutely. So Elder George Paul, he's a residential school survivor. I know he has a very incredible history. I'd urge anybody to look up information about him and learn more.
Where would he live? Like, where did he reside?
In New Brunswick, from my knowledge, and if it's Nova Scotia, I apologize. But
Atlantic Canada.
We'll say Atlantic Canada. I did get to meet him this summer, and he was incredible. So he came to the Almastaquack Maui and got to hear the children who learned the song sing the song. So the song has, George Paul went on a fast, and this is my teaching of the song, was George Paul did a fast, and that's something that a lot of folks do in Indigenous culture. If you're seeking knowledge, or you're I guess, earning ceremony and things like that. And I can always stand to be corrected, but these are my teachings. Yeah. And anyway, so George Paul did a fast, and a lot of the words to the song and the meaning from the song came from that experience for him. And the song speaks to, community and coming together and honoring who we are. And it's become somewhat of an anthem.
And is it in traditional language?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's beautiful. I've learned the song. I'm not an expert for sure, but I've learned it. And hearing my daughter in particular, she went and sang with the other children to George Paul after, like I said, the CBAWA went around to all the schools and taught the children the song. And the last day of school last year, I went to C.C. Laughlin and I got to sing it with them. And I paused for a moment and just listened to them. And it was, I get chills just thinking about it. But so during the Maui, my daughter Maya went in and she came out and she said, I sang 2 rounds, like 2 leads on my own. And it was incredible, like they're learning that. Just today I was talking about how as a child I learned the Our Father and the Hail Mary, and that's wonderful that I was given access to culture and religion, but I didn't know the other part of me and the other part of my ancestry. I wasn't allowed to know that. And, so many people struggle with what does it even mean to be a Newfoundland Mi'kmaq person? And there's so much lateral violence that exists in Canada and all over the world when it comes to, I guess, an insecurity of indigeneity, and everybody's trying so hard to hold on, and everybody is, sometimes we turn against one another because you might have more than me, or, I don't know as much as you, but I think like open heart, open mind all the time is really key. But, we need to support each other. Yeah. I've been across Canada and right out to BC, and I remember when I went to BC the first time and I spoke to other First Nations, and I thought, our situation's really unique. And then, 5 minutes in, I'm like, it's not unique at all. Yeah. We are all in this together. We are all facing the same struggles. We are all disconnected from culture. We are all trying our best to revive and promote and keep our heritage alive for our families.
There's generational trauma all the way across the country.
So much so, yeah. It's really difficult, but I think that knowing who you are in your heart means a lot more than knowing what you have in your wallet, because a piece of plastic and the Canadian government don't get to determine who I am. Right. So I think there's just more power in holding that near and dear to your soul than it is being validated by the Indian Act, which should be burned anyway.
It's, here, well said. I find it, it's just interesting to hear you talk about your kids, like going to school and now like singing the honor song in school, and thinking back on myself being in grade 1 and grade 2, and it's the Lord's Prayer and it's O Canada and all this, I just have to wonder, like, can there be a point where it's the honor song, and it's O Canada, and it's this, and it's like we can just acknowledge what's going on
it's
here.
It's all a part of our history.
But you need to know, don't like sweep it away. Be like, this is, because I'm sure, even though I don't know the words of the honor song, I bet you that it translates to a very beautiful song about, life on this part of this continent, and values associated with living a good life here and being a good person. And I think that's what we need to get back to a little bit.
Absolutely.
And also,
there's no discredit. Sorry, Justin, but I just want to say, I am an Indigenous woman. That's one part of me.
Yeah.
I honor my ancestry to all of my family. So that's my English, Irish.
Fair.
We're all a mix of things. So, I advocate for my indigeneity because it's something that was lost and taken, and I want to revive it, and I want my children to have access to it.
Yeah.
But, I don't, the church, there's all kinds of things we can say about church and colonialism and O Canada and the Lord's Prayer, but these are all things that make us who we are. So
that's how we got here.
That's how we got there.
It just seems that, also as like an Irish descendant, I don't feel like anybody's trying to suppress that. And when I go to St. John's, in fact, I feel quite celebrated, right on George Street.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
So it's just like, yes, I feel that, and I understand how, you with a mixed cultural background, would choose to focus on this, because this needs that energy.
This was the
right
oppressed
now.
part of me,
Exactly.
and when we're given back a piece of ourselves and given the permission to embrace and engage in it, it completes you as a person.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity now here in Canada as we celebrate truth and reconciliation, or whenever I say truth and reconciliation, I always kind of make a face because it's difficult.
Such a big
we
thing.
want truth and reconciliation.
Yeah.
So it's really great that tomorrow we'll come out and we'll support and we'll do things that, honor what we've lost, and we'll bring awareness to things and try our best not to make the same mistakes going forward. But, I just really want to see... I want to see a way forward where the calls to action are actions, like they're pushed forward, and it takes time, but we'll get there.
Well, this is why I think it's great that you're in the mix, and because I know you're an action person, and I know you'll get that action, but I also know you're a very modest person, and so it makes me nice. It's really nice to hear you sit here and talk about just wanting to do these things for yourself and to fill your own heart and soul, and for you to know that you're doing good work. And then for also, what you're not saying is that people are going to go there on Friday and they're all going to meet at the garden, and you had such a big part of that yourself, right? Like in the design and the inception of that whole place, right down to the sort of the artwork. And I know that you don't like to talk about all of your own things like that, but I just want to tell you that I think people in this region should feel very fortunate that somebody like you is out there like carrying this flag and running with this ball and this flame. And anytime I've heard you talk about this on, off camera, on, off the record, it's always like very consistent.
Thank you.
There's nothing being put on here. So I really commend you for that.
Thank
And just in the last moment of this interview, it is interesting how we come here to talk about truth and reconciliation. We have 10 minutes. What are you going to do in 10 minutes about that, really, right?
know,
So it's more important to sort of talk about what the landscape is right here in Western Newfoundland, which is the point of this show.
Yeah.
So that being said, is there any message that maybe you want to say here in the final moments of this to just the listeners, the average person of Western Newfoundland right now?
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to squeeze in real quick is the UNDRIP document.
Yep.
I carry these two little books with me everywhere I go. They're
Where
always
can
in
you
my
get these,
pocket.
by the way? Did you have to go to Ottawa to get those?
No, I've picked them up on my travels along the way. The university has them, I think, in the resource center up there, the Indigenous Resource Center. Kristen and Rob can help you out with that. They're fantastic. The band office may have some, but these are the calls to action for truth and reconciliation, and this is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, UNDRIP. And until we get our governments to adopt this, this is a game changer. And so the government puts time and money into creating documents and engaging communities, but they need to adopt it. They need to accept it. So it's adopted in British Columbia, and I think maybe in the Yukon or Manitoba. There's one of the other provinces, but it needs to go right across all the provinces. And when they do this, this will give us more leverage to exist long term, right now as we exist as Hollywood First Nation, it's going to be a few generations, maybe 2 or 3, but will be kind of decimated again in terms of recognition from the federal government, you know. As a Newfoundlander, you know, growing up in my Mi'kmaq heritage, I wasn't even aware of it. My father was telling me things about plants and nature and wind and, you know, what we made and what we did. And I didn't have a name for it. I knew it was different than most of my friends. But, you know, embrace those teachings that you had and don't feel like you don't know. You do know. You just didn't have a name for it. Be proud of who you are. Wear your orange shirt on Friday. I have to give a plug real quick.
Go.
I am wearing the shirt that was the winner from last year's logo contest.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I didn't see any of the submissions for this contest. And the winner is Callie Gill. And Callie Gill was, I believe, in grade 9 last year, and she won this contest. And Callie is my son's stepsister. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And Callie is a strong ally for Indigenous culture because she's brought this to us. The design is so beautiful, and you know, her sentiment behind it is lovely. And when an ally comes to the Indigenous circle and says, "I want to support you, and I want to learn, and I want to show that I'm listening," like, that is incredible. So if you don't have a status card, if you've lost it, I apologize on behalf of everybody I know. Trust me, I'm fighting your fight.
Well, you can't get it
but I
replaced.
can't get anywhere with it. It's government's not listening, and they're just, it's an incredibly defeating process.
Wow. What do you mean? People have this sounds like too
people
much
have-
to unpack.
oh,
here.
it is,
People have
absolutely,
gotten their
trust
status
me.
and lost their status here?
I mean, it's an absolute, when I say it out loud, it doesn't even sound like, it sounds like you can't even make that up,
Yeah.
you know? But yeah, the government does all kinds of really funny things to Indigenous people that continue to oppress and frustrate us all. But it doesn't matter. Be who you are in your heart. And if you're not an Indigenous person, be an ally. Be an ally to every marginalized group that you can help empower and bring strength, because that's the best we can do. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming down.
No sweat. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Namoltas.
And that was Jenny Brake, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to wrap this episode up. Thanks. And that's it for today's episode. I want to thank Cameron Comden for coming down and telling us about the Western Speed Park. Make sure you check out some exciting racing events around Western Newfoundland. And I really want to thank Jenny Brake as well for coming back again and giving us the lay of the land right now for our Indigenous community. And make sure you take her advice and check out as much information as you can find on UNDRIP. This is a top recommendation by Jenny right now for something that you should check out and look into for allies and Indigenous people. That's it for this week. We'll see you next Tuesday with another episode of West Talk. Good night.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
My name is Miles Morales, and I'm Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man.
Miles! Want to get out of here?
So wait a minute, there's an elite crew with all the best spider people in it? I'm Spider-Man.
Oh, no way. All of us are.
Being Spider-Man is a sacrifice.
You know, you're the only Spider-Man who isn't funny. We're supposed to be funny.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Rent it now.
Hey, man. Want to go for a ride?
Sure. Toss me a life jacket.
We're gonna need